So the Frankie G. Williams Gallery at Meredith College invites you to the Fall 2025 Senior Art Exhibition, Reflections in Fur and Flesh, where Brendanor Fiden and Meredith Mills showcase their development as both artists and educators. Through dynamic compositions and expressive interactions, Brendanor ruminates and processes her emotions and experiences through the intricate sculptures of animals. Meredith Mills illustrates and shares the love of family through her painting of pets, where she purposefully selects glassware and carefully captures the expressions of the subject that she's painting. Reflections in Fur and Flesh is the looking glass into these women and where they are and where the future of their art envisions. They capture experiences, concepts, and emotions through their unique depictions of animals, and they hope you find meaningful reflections within their work. Please help me welcome Meredith Mills.
Thank you. Let's see. Let's see. Oops. Do I do the space?
Yes. What happened there?
Oh, okay, perfect. Hi, everybody. My name is Meredith, and I am a senior here at Meredith College, and I am getting my K-12 teaching licensure to teach art. And specifically, I would love to teach elementary school art, although I'm totally open to middle or high school as well. I've had a passion for art ever since I can remember. I've always been coloring with crayons or cutting with scissors my whole life. Love crafting, painting, and drawing. So I'm excited for you guys to check out my work today. My father has been one of my biggest influences in the art world. He's a graphic designer and he makes a lot of shirt designs for Bass Pro Shops. So he works with a lot of woodland animals like deer, bears, fish, things of that sort. So I grew up watching him paint and illustrate a lot of those animals, which is where I um, picked out a lot of my love for animals as well. And specifically, I've gotten really into pets and dogs and cats specifically, and I love painting their expressions and their unique distinctions. So these are just a few of my earlier works of art. So the first one is from like 2016, so like early middle school. This one was my first time ever painting with canvas and acrylic paint. So you can tell this dog does have 5 legs. It was a bit of a challenge, and proportions were a big struggle for me back then. But back then I was very happy with this piece, and I still have it, so it's a nice way to look back and see where I've come. And then the middle piece is from around like freshman year of college. I took a big break, clearly painting, and I came back to paint this for one of my friends. It's her dog. And this, you can tell here, I started experimenting more with texture and really paying attention to the brush size I used and capturing the fur. Although the proportions are still, I'm struggling a little bit with like the eye placement and like, the texture on the nose, things like that. And then this last piece was from, I'd say, like a year or two ago. And this is the first time I painted animals on glass specifically. So this was a very fun experience. This was a little bit hard at first because of the way some of the paint like clumped or like grouped together. So it, it's progress, but I knew that I wanted to push myself further and keep practicing and keep trying get painting on glass. So that's where I ended up today. So before I get into my specific pieces, I'd like to explain my process a little bit. So the first thing I do is I hand select each piece of glass, porcelain, or earthenware that I paint on. So whether that's plates, vases, cups, mugs, things like that. And then by looking at the colors or the patterns on the piece of glass, I then consider what animal I think matches that style the best. So with this piece specifically, I really liked the way that the brown and the blue worked together. So I knew I wanted to paint a brown dog. So the first thing that came to my mind was a chocolate lab. And I basically look at my reference photo, whether that's a photo I have or a photo that someone sends me, and I make a rough outline onto the vessel and with all white, so filled in. And then I sketch with my pencil the little details. And then little by little, I cover the piece with color and layer by layer build up the values that build the animal on there. So this one was really fun because you can see the background is very organic. There's a lot of nature, a lot of trees, birds flying. So to me, it really harmonized with the dog because it seemed like a little world he was living in. And I just, I really love the way this one turned out. So this next one is a little bulldog, and bulldogs are one of my personal favorite pets. I just love them. I think they have so much character and personality in their appearances. And I chose to depict this guy on a olive green square plate. And I'm not really sure why that is. I think that bulldogs, for some reason, reminded me of darker colors, like more earthy tones. So I think that the whites of his fur here kind of popped against this darker color. And so this was also a fun shape because it's not a traditional plate, it's like a different shape. So that was pretty cool to experiment with too. And then this one is on a larger vessel, which is more 3D. It's a jar or a jug. And this I actually sourced at a thrift store. And all the pieces I found that are in my exhibit are either from the antique stores in Raleigh, thrift stores. So it's really fun to kind of search for these pieces instead of just buying them like off a shelf somewhere. So this is an exotic short hair cat on this glass jug. And I loved the way that the black and white really contrasted with each other. And it was cool to experiment with the clear vessel to see how the light kind of bounced off the surface and interacted with the artwork. And then this one is where I kind of started experimenting with florals. And here I depicted an English pointer on a brown or amber glass bottle. And I chose to add some flowers to this piece because I felt that it elevated it a bit and kind of brightened it up because this was a darker piece. And I felt that in ways, the kind of white of the lily just really popped against the darkness of the bottle and the black fur of the dog. But this guy was fun because of his expression. And for some reason, I don't paint a lot of animals with their like mouths open or tongues out. So this was a cool journey that I took. It was a little bit more challenging, but I'm willing to push myself to try different expressions and looks. And here's another blue plate. This one is a little bit smaller than the first one I showed you, but it's similar. And this is a Siberian cat. So I chose a Siberian cat for this plate because of the color of the plate. It's like a powder blue, like an icy blue. And Siberian cats historically reside in like colder, more chilly areas. So I felt like the color of this plate kind of connected that. And I could picture it sitting with some glassware to kind of bring in that like chilly vibe. So this one was really fun too, with all the fluffiness of this cat. And then the last piece I have in my exhibit is this large navy vase that I painted this boxer on. And this was probably one of my favorite pieces out of the exhibit because of his like confident look. And I loved all of the variations of browns in this one, contrasting against the stark white like chest he has. And I felt as the blue hydrangeas kind of complemented the darker blue. So it's kind of a more monochromatic feeling to this one. And now I want to talk about how my time at Meredith has influenced my work as an artist. So back in May, I studied abroad in Italy with Dr. Toole and Dr. Bauer, and I had an amazing time, and I was immersed in so much just amazing and beautiful artwork. Specifically, the piece on the far left was from a ceramics shop that we visited, and this artist painted with the glaze this scene that reminded me a lot of North Carolina, which was very surprising to find in Italy. But it's this hunter with his dog, and this piece is one of the pieces that inspired me to start painting on plates because I love how this looks. I have it hanging in my room. And I was just looking at it one day thinking, man, I should try that and see how that goes for me with acrylic paint. And then the piece below it is a ceramic vessel as well that has a hand painted like plant on it, which was really cool. And then the Murano hand blown glass little creatures were super cool. I was like just immersed looking at these for so long. They could not get me out of the store. They were so cool. And then the top one is a sketch artist that I saw just sketching people in the middle of I think it was Venice. And that was just really cool that he was just sketching from what he saw. Whereas I have such a lengthy like process, he was just going for it, which I really admired his confidence in that way. And then just recently, we finally finished the senior tunnel that we had been working on for Corn Week. So I was one of the co-chairs, and we worked very long hours out there painting it. And this was a fun experience for me as an artist because it pushed me to work really big. And typically, like all of my work is maximum like this big. So it really helped me get out of my comfort zone and push myself to make these huge pieces. And we used latex paint, like outdoor latex paint, and it acted similarly to acrylic paint. So it was a really cool experience to be able to add to this project. And then with Emma Herb, we painted this Lux floor mural in the building. And this was so much fun. I mean, we had just a great day working on this project. And this meant a lot to me because we used a process similar to the one I do small, like with the painting the whole circle white and then adding the details, like drawing it in with the pencil. So it showed me that I can do that, but bigger. So that was really informative and very helpful to me to create this piece with her. And then finally, just two of the art courses here at Meredith that really pushed me to do things other than acrylic paint too, but still working with pets since that's something I really have a passion for. So printmaking with Professor Johnson, I made these two little prints of these dogs, which it was super cool to try something new, but still incorporate my love for dogs. And I love the colors of these and the different shades and hues. And then with Professor Beck in the 3D design class, I made this like life-size bulldog out of cardboard. You could see like the construction process, like the skeleton and then stuffing it and then wrapping it. So that was a lengthy process, but the end result was super cool. And I plan to use him in my classroom for our class pet. So I'm planning on dressing him up for all the like seasons and things like that. So it should be cool. But I think just it really opened my mind to try new things since I had such a great time using these processes I don't typically use to make art. And that's all I have for tonight. This is my link tree if you'd like to scan it. I have my Instagram, my email, and my website for you to explore. But I really appreciate all of you showing up for Benny and I, and I hope you enjoy our work. And now I'd like to invite Benny to the stage.
Thank you so much, Meredith, for bringing me up. As you guys know, my name is Badr. Well, at least some of you guys know. My name is Badr Fidan. Most of y'all just call me Benny. And before I even get started talking about my artworks, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about me and give context about where a lot of my themes and subject matters originate from. I was born in Turkey on the West Coast in a city called Balıkesir. I did not live there for very long. We immediately moved over to Azerbaijan in a city called Baku, and from there, my parents got a green card for America, and we moved here when I was about 3 years old. We first started off in Ohio, then we moved over to California, and then we moved over to Delaware, and then finally we came here to North Carolina. Due to this upbringing, I was always moving around. I've never really had like long-term friends up until now. And I am the oldest daughter. I have an older brother, but I'm the oldest daughter out of 4 siblings. And due to that, I was definitely responsible for a lot of things, especially on the emotional side, mainly because there was a language barrier between my siblings and my parents. My parents, they speak fluent Turkish, but their English is a little broken, obviously because they're immigrants. But me and my siblings mostly grew up here in America. So while we do have Turkish, trust me, I can speak pretty good Turkish. It's more on the conversational side. And you guys can come in. Yes, go on. And due to that, I was definitely a little bit more responsible of making sure that my sisters felt heard and that they felt safe, which was a heavy burden on me as a kid. But due to that, I struggled with talking about my own feelings to other people, because I was like, I'm supposed to be the eldest daughter. I'm responsible. I can take care of people. And it was a struggle for me to talk about myself. And that kind of leads me into about my art. A very big part about my art, I'm sure you guys have probably noticed, is animals. Oh, what? Before I get there, the process. Oops, I got my slides mixed up. The process. I'll talk about my process a little bit. My process is, I work with clay, a lot of ceramic, and I get very lost in it. Even the beginning parts of working with ceramic, you have to wedge the clay. This is a specific type of wedging called spiral wedging. Even that pattern is like, you get very lost in it. I lose myself in the details of my work a lot of the time. And because I get so into my work, I also tend to get very emotionally attached. Holly Fisher, our ceramic professor, can absolutely attest to this. I cried when this vessel came out of the kiln. It was a very emotional moment for me. Mostly, again, because I pour so much into it. And when I finally felt like I had this massive success, it was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. This is beautiful. And it's definitely a big part for me. Now we can talk about recurring ideas and forms in my art, namely animals. This is some of my work from when I was in high school. So even back then, you can tell that I loved working with animals. I loved paint, I loved drawing birds, especially. And I think a big reason why is because, bless you, a big reason why is because animals, while they do have a language, they often communicate through body language. Cats, for example, if you give out your hand and they sniff, it's usually like an introduction. They're like, okay, I'm getting to know you, you know? And if they rub against you, it's like, okay, this is like, okay, you're cool with me, you know? And I love that about animals. I really attach myself to that aspect of animals. It's, I don't know, it's very personal to me. Sorry about that. And outside of that, I'm sure everyone's had this moment where they're like, I wish I was a bird. I don't want to be here anymore. I wish I was a bird. I wish I was flying. I wish I was a squirrel, something like that. I do that so often. It's, I mean, I feel like everybody goes through that where it's like, I'm tired. I want to be free. I want to let go of these shackles, you know? And going off of that, I feel like us humans don't see animals in a very neutral perspective. A big reason why I'm trying to lean away from human forms is because a lot of people have unconscious bias with humans, especially. If you see a male figure versus a female figure making the same pose, you may see them in different ways. For example, you might see if a male figure holding up, doing some type of heroic pose. If you see a female doing that, you might be like, oh, this seems a bit more aggressive. It's unconscious bias. We were raised to think this way. And I don't really like that affecting my art, especially as a hijabi. I'm very aware of the fact that certain people have certain thoughts about me and they see me in certain ways. And I would personally rather move towards animals so people will get the emotional reaction and connection that I want them to feel. Something else about my art, I don't do geometric shapes. I love organic forms. I love curves. I love that feeling, that flow, I love dynamic poses. I love movement within my art. I feel like it evokes so much more emotion in people. And that's very important for what I'm trying to do through my art. And geometric shapes I think are lovely. They create, I guess, stability and all that good jazz. But it's not really what I'm going for in my art. So you'll rarely ever see it. I'm sure my mosaic, you'll kind of see it. I'll talk about the mosaic, but we'll get there. Another big thing is self-reflection. As I was talking about, I self-reflect a lot in my art. There's a big emotional connection between me and my artworks, and I personally just am constantly rethinking things. And I also base a lot of my art on psychological analysis and those types of things. I think it's very important. Again, I'm trying to evoke emotions. I'm trying to get people to reflect. So it's a big part about it, you know? What is this exhibit? We're finally going to start talking about my art in just a second. I swear we're almost there. But I wanted a purpose for this exhibit. I didn't just want to talk about art, like just show my art, you know? I think my art is lovely, don't get me wrong, but I wanted there to be like a reason for this exhibit, and it is growth, to show my growth as an artist, see where I started and where I am now and where perhaps I'll go in the future. And I think I've done a pretty good job with that. So I'll finally go ahead and start talking about my first work. This is my bird triptych. It is a ceramic work. It will be the first work that you'll see of mine once you're past Meredith's stuff. Excuse me, artworks. I should have just called it stuff. That was rude. I'm sorry. Is this my favorite work? No, but I think it's very important to show where I've started. This is, again, my very first ceramic work ever. I first started using clay and ceramics in Holly's class, Ceramics 1. This is the first time that I've ever done it. And you can still see those like original ideas that I was talking about, animals, obviously. Those dynamic poses, that movement, those curves, nothing is really like geometric, no sharp lines. It's mostly just how things move into one another. And I haven't gotten to that self-reflective point yet. I'm building up to that, but you can still kind of see those ideas popping through. And I think the forms are gorgeous, but I will say I'm not the most happy with the glaze, but that's okay. I love it now. It has a very special place in my heart. This is some of the progress and like inspirations and stuff. I love how birds interact with another, again, the body language stuff. And I kind of wanted to just capture that. Some people interpret it differently. My father, for example, kind of saw it as a mother bird playing with his baby birds, you know? I'm pretty sure one of the birds were based off of birds fighting. So if you want to interpret it as birds fighting, go on ahead. It is, again, a lot of my art is based on what you feel about it, and how you interpret it and how it makes you feel. And this kind of leads me into, oh, that's my artwork again. My bad. My lengthy brothers. These ones were the ones that made me cry. I wouldn't say that this is like a turning point for my art, but this is definitely where I realized how emotionally attached I can get to ceramic things that I make. So the left one, the snake, it's a timber rattlesnake. His name is Tim. Middle is a ferret. His name is Rhett. And the right one is Ray, a moray eel. The fact that I named them, I think, can show you that I have a little bit of an attachment to them. These artworks, again, are just kind of introductions. Like they're building the basis of like where I'm going to be going with my art. Animals, obviously. Playing around with some more textures and those types of things. But I feel like this was definitely more of like where is your, like, you started on this path, you love this path, let's keep it going. And this is some more of my inspirations. I love the ideas of little critters crawling into little pots, and that's where this was inspired by. It was purely a labor of love. That's the best way to, I guess, capture this word. It was a labor of love, and I still love them very much. One time when I was having a very bad night, I did hug one of them to comfort me. It's very true. And they're literally my children. This leads me to my tragedy of Selkie ceramic, a mosaic. Who knows what a Selkie is, or what the Selkie myth is? Perfect. A few of you guys know. A Selkie is a mythical fae creature based in Ireland and Scotland. Basically, the whole thing is it's a seal that can, when she takes off her cloak, she can turn into a human. And I mean, there are also male Selkies, but generally they're mostly female. And a big part of it is her need to come back to the ocean. It is a very strong desire to come back to the ocean. One of the biggest, like most famous stories is about how a man steals her coat from her so she can't turn back into a seal. The seal forces her to marry him, and at some point she's finally able to find her cloak and run away. Obviously, there are different iterations. You will find different, very similar myths all around the world. But this one is definitely, I think the tragedy resonated with me a little bit. That need to go back to nature, to go back to where she belongs, I think kind of held true. So this one's a little interesting because this is where I started developing narrative. This is also the mythology that I was talking about, some images. This is where I began developing a bit some narratives in my work, where I kind of wanted to have like some type of story to go, where it wasn't just cool animals, you know? I kind of wanted some more purpose, some more direction. Something very interesting is that it also made me realize is that audiences do not see what I see. Originally, I mean, I'm not sure if y'all can see it. This right here, let me actually pull up oh, this is another progress photo, but the left side, the gray figure is a skull, and this figure right here is supposed to be a woman crying. Again, some people may not see it. If you don't see it, please tell me what you see. I've heard so many different things, and whenever they tell me, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so interesting. Because some people, generally because I don't have the geometric shapes in my I guess, artworks, they feel a very strong reaction to this mosaic specifically. It's like there feels like something breaking, and it's like, I love that. Please tell me more. So please, genuinely, like if you feel something about this one and you're like, this resonates with me for some reason, talk to me about it. I would love to hear. I mean, with all of them in general, but you know. This leads me to my fortune tea set. I love these guys. They're not very functional, unfortunately, because the insides are a little broken and that can introduce mold, and that's not very sanitary or safe. But I think conceptually they're very fun. I based these off of a few different things. My inspiration was one. I am tea obsessed, and I love looking at different teapots. The one that I based this on is a semi-automatic teapot. Basically, there's a chamber inside of the teapot where it brews, and then when you turn it, the chamber itself turns with the pot, and you're able to fill up your little cups. I think it's so fun, so cool, and it's so magical. And I kind of liked it because it kind of gave that sense of magic that I wanted this teapot to have. Another thing that I based this off of is the Counting Crows, I guess, myth. Depending on the culture, a different number of crows will mean a different number of things. One crow generally will mean bad luck, two crows will mean good luck, so on and so forth. This nursery rhyme, for example, the top left one, it says 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for girl, 4 for boy, 5 for silver, 6 for gold, 7 for secret never to be told, 8 for a wish, 9 for kiss, 10 for a time of joy, time of joyous bliss. And you're gonna find so many different ones. There's a second one underneath it, so you can see the different varieties and stuff. The last thing that really inspired me was Turkish coffee reading. I don't know if y'all know about this, but when you're drinking Turkish coffee, there is a bit of a, I guess, culture of fortune telling where a person looks to the bottom of your teacup, or your coffee cup, excuse me, and reads your fortune, depending on the way the grains have slid and fell and stuff. I think it's so fun, so silly. And I wanted to base something off of it. I thought it was wonderful. And that's what this fortune teapot is. As you can probably see, especially if you go into the gallery, you'll be able to see different numbers of crows inside of it. So the way this teapot works is that you would obviously brew your tea or whatever drink you'd want in your teapot. You'd pour the cups, pour it into the cups, put the cups onto some type of turntable, spin the turntable, and whatever cup you pick up is your fortune. I think conceptually it's so fun. Again, I will be recreating this because I want to be able to drink this normally, but it's not very sanitary at the moment. In the future, in the future. This leads me to my freeze up ceramic work. This is the beginning of me realizing I know where I want to go with my art. It was a transformative moment for me, mostly because I realized, whoa, I can capture so much with my art. This isn't just animals. This goes so far beyond that. For me, this, again, everyone will have different interpretations, but I will tell you guys the origins of this artwork and like where I first, I guess, got the idea. We did this in Holly Fisher's sculpture class. It was a self-portrait bust, so obviously I had to have my face there. That was kind of a non-negotiable. But everything else was kind of free game. And I got a little crazy and I was like, what if I put some animals in there? Classic, I know. So I decided I wanted to put some animals in there, but I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Until I did a little bit of reflecting, and I remembered a moment that had happened recently when I was first making this. I had a moment where I had a terrible experience with a car dealership. Where they were basically inspecting my car and they were like, we need new tires for this. And I was panicked and I said yes, without asking my parents. And they were not happy about it. They were like, that's $200. Why did you do that? Our tires are fine. They were stealing your money. And I was like, I don't know. And so when I went back to the car dealership and I was like, hey, we actually don't want those tires anymore, I froze up. I could not speak no matter what. I was smiling the whole time. I was fawning over them. I was like, yeah, no, that's totally fine. I totally get it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I have a great day, sir. And I left and I was so angry with myself. I was yelling at myself, like internally, obviously, but I had a very strong realization that I freeze up in confrontation. And I had gone into a fight, flight, or freeze response in that moment. It was the first time that I really realized that, and I was conscious of it. And it definitely left a very emotional impact on me because I reflected and realized something about myself that I hadn't before. Because of that, I was like, okay, I want to make something about this experience, capturing this, not about the car dealership, obviously, like me struggling with freezing up and just not being able to move. And that's what this artwork is about. The outside, the face, obviously, is me smiling. I definitely was wondering if I should paint this face at all, but I decided that I kind of wanted to leave it as is, to leave it looking like a stone statue, like a ceramic statue, to kind of give more of that frozen feel to it, you know? And the outside is a transition into what's going on inside of my head. So the inside is, I mean, you guys can see it, wolves. I've got wolves inside of me as the internet so well aptly puts it. I definitely wanted them to be basically crawling, like not crawling, but like clawing to get out. They're trying to make themselves be heard, but they can't get out. They're stuck in my head. I needed to release them somehow. Which leads me to my second work, Fight Back. It is my second ceramic self-portrait bust. I made it this semester during all of my classes for funsies. And it kind of plays with that duality of being stuck inside my head and showing my outside, and kind of flipping it where my inside, like where my real feelings, or not real feelings, but emotions are hidden inside, but having that aggressive look on the outside. I kind of wanted to emulate this. I guess this is a ruse. This is a reaction that I've sculpted. A lot of the times when you're having a fight reaction, it isn't a reaction that you want to have. One quote that very hits deeply for me, even if I don't personally relate to it, is, "I'm a good dog. I don't know why I bite." It's that idea of like, I can't control it. This is a defense mechanism that I've created, that I've built up over so long, that it's just something that I do. And that is why I wanted to keep that like gray brown sculpting outside for the wolves and the rest of the shoulders and head. It's something that I've in quotes, I've created. It's a these wolves are not real. They're dangerous. They definitely, they look dangerous, I hope, at least. And there's a little bit of more unity to them compared to the first ones, mostly because they are joining in to that fight back, I guess. But it's definitely a different like, you could see it, I personally see it in two different ways. The first one is this is a narrative progression where the wolves have, so like, quote unquote, escaped my head, and this is what's come to it. You could also see it as different versions of different reactions. The first one being a freeze response, this one being a fight response. I think that they're both lovely interpretations. Again, if you guys have any different interpretations of my work, or it makes you feel a certain way, I would love to hear it. But this one is, I think, a fantastic end to my Meredith journey, because I think it is a perfect place for me to, I guess it shows where I'm hoping to go in the future, where I have all of these elements, this, obviously the animals, the self-reflection, those organic shapes, those curves, those emotion, that intensity on both an emotional level and a textural level. And I really hope to be able to continue this body of work, these ideas and concepts. And I hope y'all will continue to be able to look at my work and keep supporting me in the future. Thank y'all so much.